teenager for a little while, and that was a bit boring for me. So I went to study higher education, and that meant that I took students on school camps, and so we took students from about year 3 all the way up until university, and we did school camps. So we'd go away for 3 days or sometimes 10 days, and we'd put our backpacks on and we'd carry everything with us that we needed for that time. So all of our food, our clothes, our tents, everything. We'd go out camping in the environment. And I talked to those students when we were there about how important the environment was and how important it was to protect the environment. And so it was a really, really good job. But every week I lived in my tent, and I got a little bit sick of that after about 10 years, living in my tent for 5 nights of the week. So I moved to Japan, and that photo over there, that's a photo of me in Japan, and I worked in the ski fields in Japan for a little while, and then I taught English for a little while as well. Then when I got back to Australia, I still wanted to work in the environment, so I wasn't really sure how to go about it. So I found out a little bit about natural resource management as a career, and then I found a job advertised. And I thought it was a really good opportunity because I like teaching people about the environment, and I used to always do it on long trips and stay in my tent. But now I get to do it on a day-to-day basis, and I get to go home and sleep in my own bed every night, so I really enjoy that. So, and the reason I guess I got into it is because I think that we've all got the right to live in a really healthy environment, but to make that happen, we all need to help make that happen, so we all have to do our bit. And some people don't do their bit because they don't really know how to. They might not know, how to go about they might not even know what a weed is. So we produce things like this, weed identification booklets. We give people the tools that they need to go out there and help protect the environment. So I work for an organisation called Conservation Volunteers Australia. They're a national organisation, and we've got 20 offices in Australia, and also we've got 3 in New Zealand. And we work with local communities, local volunteers, but we also work with international volunteers. So people travel to Australia just to come and volunteer with us. And the types of projects that we work on, we do a lot of tree planting, we do a lot of weeding, we do a lot of work in national parks, we build walking tracks, we fence off waterways. In some parts of Australia we do turtle monitoring and other sorts of animal monitoring just to see if we're helping to protect their habitat and if their numbers are increasing. So it's a really diverse job. Mostly here in Illawarra we work on weeding and tree planting projects. And since I've been here for 5 years, and we're coming on 6 years now, and in that time our volunteers have removed about 260,000 square metres of weeds. And so that's a pretty big number. It might be a bit hard for you to imagine how much that is. So I converted it to tennis courts for you. So does anyone have any idea how many tennis courts that might be? It's over 1,000 tennis courts worth of weeds that we've pulled out in the last 5 years. And we've planted 22,000 native plants. And so that's all being done by volunteers, which is pretty special. I've had a lot of positions at Conservation Volunteers. So you can see me over here posing with my volunteers from Singapore. That was when I was a team leader, so my job was to actually take the teams of volunteers out into the field and actually do the work, which was really, really fun. And we've got local volunteers and international volunteers. That's obviously our international volunteers. I was also the volunteer engagement officer, which meant that I was actually out in the community recruiting people, telling them how good it was, come along, volunteer with us. We do great things for the environment. Then I managed a region-wide wetland program where we were improving the health of wetlands up and down the south coast. That was really challenging and really good job. And now I've ended up, after 5 years, I actually manage the office here in England, so I'm the boss, which is sometimes a bit scary, but most of the time really fun. So that means I'm in charge of everything: budget, staff, employing people, doing the rosters, making sure the cars are okay, finding properties to work on and people to work with. So it's a pretty big job. So I really, really like my job, and there's a couple of reasons there's lots of reasons I like it, but we'll start with the funnest. I do a lot of travelling around. I got to visit farms and project sites and things like that. So often, if I've got a long way to travel, I go pick up my little dog Asher and take her in the car with me to keep me company. And also I get to cuddle a giant wombat sometimes too, which is pretty fun. But I also get to work with lots of different people, so everybody can get involved in our project. We have people come out that are only 3 or 4 years old, and then sometimes we have 70 and 80-year-old people who come out and help us. So I get to work with a really big variety of people, and I get to think of really different ways to try and get everybody that I can involved in helping to protect the environment. So my work is a lot of field-based stuff, so I get out and do a lot of that stuff a lot of the time, but I also do sit in the office sometimes, so I've got to do the rosters and I have to do the budget and all of those things. So it's a good mix of both. So I like it that sometimes when it's raining and I'm sitting at my desk, I think, oh, it's a good day to be in the office today. We get to help a lot of different people. So at the moment, our volunteers are working on a lot of private properties, so with a lot of farmers. And we're doing things like helping them fence off their creek lines, we're helping them put plants in along their creek lines, and a lot of farms in this region, as well as being really productive farms for producing dairy or whatever else, they also have a lot of patches of native bush on them. And so we've been helping farmers manage that native bush because they're too busy milking their cows and doing their other bits and pieces that are involved in being a farmer. They don't often get time to get into their natural areas. So it's great that we can take our volunteers there and help them out with that stuff. So that's what our volunteers are up to at the moment. And it's really good. I didn't know a whole lot about farming before I started doing that, but I've learnt quite a lot about farming since then. So it's been really good. I get to teach them about what's a weed and how to create frog habitat, and they get to teach me a bit about farming and what's great about that. So it's a nice two-way job. We get to spend a lot of time with students, so like coming into schools like this, and we also take schools out on excursions. I get to spend a lot of time in national parks and working with national park staff. And I really like that part of my job too, because there's a lot of great things about national parks, and I really enjoy that we can get in there, take our volunteers in there and give the national parks a hand. And I get to do things like going on bird watching tours or running bird watching tours and guided bushwalks. So we're not always out there pulling weeds and planting trees. Sometimes we just grab some members from the community and we say, let's go and see what sort of birds we can see today. And that's really good. I learned a lot from that because I didn't actually know a whole lot about birds before I started this job. I knew a little bit. I could tell a kookaburra that landed on my back fence, but I would never have known what this was. Does anybody know what this sort of bird is?
Is it a finch?
It is, and it's got red eyebrows. So what do you think? What sort of finch do you think it is? A red-browed finch.
They're basic.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have known that until I started doing all these guided bird watching tours and things as part of my job. And I guess I started out teaching people about the environment, and I still do it. So we have a lot of students come out with us, and we'll take them to wetlands and we'll teach them about the importance of wetlands as habitat for all sorts of different animals. And I also take older school students out on geography field trips and things like that. So they come out as part of a major research plan that they're doing, project, and we teach them about soil quality, water quality, erosion, all of those sorts of things. So it challenges me because I have to be able to teach everybody, all ages, but it's also keeps my job really interesting, which I enjoy. And my job's not all about the natural environment, although that's primarily where it's based, but we do a lot about conservation work for European and Indigenous heritage. And that's what this is. This here is a picture of the Lone Pine Service at Gallipoli in Turkey, which happens on Anzac Day every year. And we take a bunch of volunteers over there to work at that service every single year. And I've been lucky that I've been for the last 2 years on that program, and it's really fun. So we take volunteers over there, we teach them all about the history of World War I in Gallipoli, and we show them lots of sites, and then we actually get to volunteer at the service and help out the 6,000 other people that come in for the service. So it's a really, really special thing to be able to do, and I feel really lucky that I was asked to go on those programs. part of my job, I get to be part of this program, and that's why I'm here talking to you. And I really enjoy that. We get to, at the moment, my project for this program is I've been working with a farmer in Jamboree, and she's got beautiful, beautiful dairying land. It's just prime country for the cows, the dairy cows. But she also has some really, really beautiful patches of rainforest on her property, and that's an endangered ecological community, which means that there isn't very much of it. So she wants the two to be balanced side by side, so productive farms and healthy landscapes. So she's leased the land out to the dairy farm who lives nearby, and the natural areas we've been going in and helping her to protect. So we've been going in and removing weeds, we've planted a lot of plants, we've done a lot of work for her. But if I wasn't around to tell everybody about that, nobody would know. There's a whole lot of farmers out there that just toil away, look after their natural areas, and do it when they can, but nobody gets to find out about it. And so a lot of people often think farmers aren't doing much to manage their natural areas, but they are. And that's what I love about this job, is that I can make movies like that one that I was making then, and I can show it to people, and I can come here and tell you guys about it. The farmers are actually doing a really good job of managing their natural areas. So that's pretty much it from me about what I do for a job. There's lots, if you're interested in the environment, there's heaps and heaps and heaps of different jobs that you can choose from. You just need to decide which one you want to do. So has anyone got any questions? Anyone?
We start with questions.
Sorry, what was that?
Questions.
Oh, questions.
Oh, okay, do you want to stop that for a minute?